Welcome to our first interview. I mean, it's almost April, but whatever. Our first interview of the year from another zero. Kate Rose Reynolds, welcome. Welcome to the zero. Happy you're here. First time that you're here. I hope first of many.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I hope so too.
Yes. Okay, let's discuss. Let's get into it. First of all, congratulations. Congratulations on becoming a mommy.
Thank
Yay.
you.
So, theater life is a tough life, people. It's you're everywhere and nowhere, like all at the same time, and then combining that with motherhood. How has that been?
It's a wild ride. I think people much smarter than me kind of tried to warn me before this. Came into it with I was like, nothing's going to change that much. I mean, like it'll be fine. I can keep doing the things I was doing, right? No, that was wrong. I was wrong. I should have listened to the people who told me that it was going to be a lot harder than I was prepared for. Um, so I mean, it's going well so far, but to be fair, I also, the show that I'm currently working on is my first job back. And
Mm,
it's only been a week and a half. So maybe ask me again at the end of the month how it's
mhm,
going. I mean, we learn to balance, right? We learn to juggle. My kid
mhm.
is awesome, so that really helps. My partner is awesome, so that really helps. I don't
Awesome.
think it would be possible without those two things. But it's an interesting balancing act. It's interesting to be in rehearsal and then on break be able to check the baby monitor to see how bedtime's going and then or be in the middle of bedtime when I'm home and be thinking about rehearsal. It's figuring out how to find the balance in it.
Yeah, that's true. Like also being in your head with all everything that needs to be done. And speaking of a balancing act, I mean, we've seen you act, you have your own theater company, direct. So it's not, oh my God, what do you like best? But how this is, I feel that it's also, and this is me speaking for me, seeing it from the outside, but I feel that there also comes a maturity while you're working and layering this artistry. And then you're like, well, I will direct, I will act. Or if something speaks to you, also directing or acting, that's kind of like the way to go versus people who only just direct, who only just act, who don't have companies or are just with companies. How is that balancing act for you creatively?
I think you just made it sound a lot more generous. I think you could say ungenerously that I'm a bit of a control freak and like to have my finger in everything and don't like there to be any aspect of theater that I don't understand. So I think that's perhaps the less generous explanation of why I do all those things. Um, but to be generous about it, I mean, I love theater. I love all parts of it. There are parts of it I love less. I mean, let's face it. For instance, don't really like marketing. I have a lot of respect for it, but with working with Loud Fridge, I've discovered that is not my skill set. I'm so glad it's someone's skill set. It's just not mine. But in terms of the creative side of things, I think that for me, being able to work in different ways, so being able to act, being able to direct, being able to lighting design on occasion, being able to produce expands the scope of the kind of work that I'm able to do as just an actor, because I started as an actor. But as an actor, as a white woman in my 30s, there's only so many stories that I get to tell. And those stories are wonderful, but being a director or producer really expands the boundaries of the stories that I'm able to tell, the opportunities that I'm able to provide or be a part of for artists, particularly from underrepresented backgrounds, people who are new in the industry, creating opportunities and creating space for different stories and for different voices to be heard. That as an actor, I just don't have that kind of control or that kind of power to be able to make at least a small difference in what stories
Mhm.
are being presented in San Diego.
Hmm. And yes, you started as an actress, and your mother, for people who don't know, Red Rosina Reynolds. It did that influence you
Oh yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I grew up in theaters. I grew up, and one of my earliest like memories is playing on the set of a murder mystery that she directed up at North Coast Rep. I think I was like 4 or 5, and I got to go up on the set after a rehearsal and like play on it because it had like trap doors and stuff. And I was like, "This is the coolest thing ever!" I still remember it. It was great. So yeah, I mean, I grew up in theater, so I think that it was the world I knew. She would take me to rehearsals, she would take me to shows and put me in the booth with the stage manager, be like, don't bother them, they're working. And I would just, sit in the booth and play with My Little Ponies, and mom was working and the stage manager was working, and that was what we did. So I think it was familiar, and I got started in children's theater because of her. And I just don't, it was the world I knew. I think it
Mhm.
probably would have been somewhat more surprising if I decided to like go out on a limb and become like a lawyer. I think that would have been a lot weirder for everyone.
Mhm. And her response when you went like full throttle on this, it was like, yay or nay.
No, she's unbelievably supportive. I mean, we certainly talk about the fact that it's a hard industry, and I know that when I, particularly when I was younger, when I would, not get a role that I wanted or was going through a hard time, I know that it was hard on her because she knows how devastating this industry can be sometimes, and kind of how hard it can be to stay confident and to believe in yourself in this industry. So that I know occasionally was hard for her to watch, but she's always been unbelievably supportive. And as I move into different mediums, as I start directing, she's an excellent director, obviously, as well. So as I've moved into directing, as I've sort of explored these other ways of creating theater, she's been there every step of the way with whatever support I've asked for, honestly.
And let's hold a moment for My Little Pony, which was so it was huge also. I was obsessed.
Obsessed.
Obsessed. They made me so
Obsessed.
happy.
I made my mom, because this was back in the day, kids, where I wanted to know the words to the theme song. And so my mom had to watch the show with me every day so that she could painstakingly try to write down the words as it was playing in real time on TV so that I could have the words to the theme song so I could sing it to my little ponies while I was playing with them.
Look at that artistry all the way to the bone. I never sang to them.
I needed a sound designer even back then.
I love this. So currently, and your comeback, right? Let's say, in this sense, um, you are directing Mary's Wedding, and I think that you have a history there. Can you tell us all about it? This is up at Scripps Ranch Theater. Speaking also of North County in San Diego. So, well, what is this story?
So Mary's Wedding is a play by a Canadian playwright named Stephen Massacote, and it takes place during World War One, and it tells through a dream play structure, so very nonlinear, very surreal at moments, kind of blending these worlds together. The story of a young couple, Mary and Charlie, who meet on the eve of World War One, and then get separated, of course, when he enlists with the Canadian cavalry and ends up going overseas to fight. So it's the story of their love. It's the story of the war. Actually, speaking of balancing acts, one of the things that I love about the show is that I really do think it's a fascinating balancing act. It's an old fashioned romance. I mean, good old Hollywood style romance in some ways. And yet it balances that with a realism and a groundedness that prevents it from becoming sentimental, which I appreciate. I'm not much of one for sentiment, quite frankly, which is funny from someone who's directing a romance currently. But I think that it manages to be uplifting without being saccharine. It manages to actually tell us a story about war and love, which are two of the oldest themes that you could possibly think of. But it manages to tell us a story about them in a way that makes them feel fresh and new and relevant even today. It's the dream play structure is really exciting for me. It just moves through time and space, and it asks you as an audience member to use your imagination and to kind of go on this journey with these characters in a way that is engaging and thought provoking. And I'm hoping kind of suspenseful because we don't quite know from the start how this is going to end.
Mm-hmm.
It's a love letter to theater in a lot of ways. It's kind of all
Oh,
the things that I think theater does best in that it plays with time and space and asks us to be playful. It asks us to use our imaginations and to be willing to take leaps and to be able to see ordinary objects used in ways that we would never expect them to be, and to own that entirely and to play with it and to be present with the possibilities around us. I think that the show has an incredible staying power. I mean, I revisited it after over 10 years and read it again and found it just as powerful as the first time I'd read it 10 years ago. I think that there's a universality to it, and a kind of timelessness to it. For people who have seen it before and might be wondering, I hope that what I'm bringing to it with my incredible cast and my incredible design team is, again, a very highly theatrical version of it, one that really leans into the dream structure, um, one that is fluid and fast and keeps you on your toes, and one that really highlights again the incredible work of all of the people that I'm lucky enough to collaborate with on this. I think it's the kind of play that allows people to shine. So I hope that that people will walk away from it being like, not only were the actors great and the script was great, but like I've never seen a lighting design like that. What a cool use of the space of Scripps Ranch Theater. I've seen a million shows at Scripps Ranch, and I've never seen a set that looked like that before. So I'm hoping that people will walk away from it with again a new love for the theatrical medium.
I have a twofer here. Where do you pull when you are directing? Like, what are your inspirations in order to, materialize the piece? And then the second part of it is, do you look for certain aspects in reviews? Because that's been something that's also been on my end of things, on my how I see things, and for my work. I always wonder with directors if they're looking for something in reviews or something that is recognizable in their work to be.
I think direction is one of those things that can be very hard to write about. And I think that for people that don't have firsthand experience with it, it can also be really hard to kind of pinpoint or describe what makes good direction versus bad direction. Or maybe not good versus bad, but good versus mediocre direction. I think it can be really hard because like there's the things you can see, right? You can see how the show was staged. And that's like pretty easy to see. And you can kind of see that happened. You know that directors have kind of a say in like how the lighting designer and the sound designer and the scenic designer all worked together. But then there's the things that are a lot harder to see. Like how did that director influence the performance of the actors? How did that director pull different things out of them than maybe they've ever seen before? How did that director facilitate, which is I think a huge part of direction, the conversation between all these creatives to get one coherent vision together? I think that that's one of my favorite parts of directing, and I think it's also one of the hardest ones to pinpoint. So for example, in this production with Mary's Wedding, I'm directing it. I have my design team, obviously, which people might be kind of familiar with. So like a scenic designer, a lighting designer, a sound designer, a costume designer. But then I also have an intimacy director and a movement director. And I know that can suddenly people be like, whoa, so who did what with the how and like who blocked what? And I think that I suppose something I'm always kind of looking for when I read a review is whether anyone's kind of seen the overall vision and the overall kind of coming together of all of these artists working together to one common goal, which I think can be, again, really hard to see, but is so central to what it actually means to me to be a director is facilitating the creativity of the artists that I work with. But no, I appreciate the question because I know it's kind of hard to like look at a work and pull apart what exactly a director did with it. Especially when there's so many other creatives involved. So like a movement director is basically like the straight play version of a choreographer. So they'll come in and work on specific sequences, things that are particularly like movement heavy, in order to further facilitate the overarching vision of a director. Ditto with an intimacy coordinator comes in to work on scenes of intimacy, of exposure, any kind of sensitive material to again kind of create a more robust and rich version of the overall vision for a show.
And where do you pull? Like, creatively
I am my
in this
mother's
show?
daughter. So my mother is British, for those that aren't familiar with Rosina. And in England, text is king. The training there is very much that everything you need to know is in a script. So I am text first and foremost. I think that a very close reading of any script will tell you so many things that you need to know about how to do it. And then beyond that, I mean, I watch a lot of theater. I've seen a lot of theater here. I've seen a lot of theater internationally when I've been lucky enough to travel. I watch national theater live, like at home. And anything you see, I think you can start to kind of bring into your heart, into your soul, into the little gooey center of you that is the creative part of you. You kind of synthesize every show you've ever seen, every movie you've watched, even you kind of bring all those pieces together, and then you kind of combine what lives inside of the gooey creative part of your soul with the
Hmm.
text, and things will just kind of offer themselves up. And sometimes it's, sometimes you have one idea and then you get into rehearsal and you're like, well, that was wrong.
Yeah.
That didn't work at all. That was a terrible idea. Let's not do that. And then also respecting the creatives that you work with. So like I have, when I start design conversations with a scenic designer, I have a certain idea, but if they're like, hey, I think this thing would be really cool and I think this would actually work a lot better, I I mean, almost always we'll be like, okay, great, show me in a model, show me in a rendering. Like, let me see what that would look like. And let me see if that will work with what I know I'm going to be doing with blocking or what I know is going to be happening with lighting. So
Hmm.
trusting the people that you work with as well to bring you their perspectives, because there's only so much that any one person really can hold. We're better for our collaborations.
Absolutely. Yes. And here in From Another Zero, we always ask our guests. Here, we just don't start from zero, we start from another zero, meaning that if you're going to start again, start over, new beginnings, all of that fun stuff, and not so fun at times. It just can't be from zero because you have learned, you have different tools. Again, you're in a different stage in your life. It's not just zero, it's another zero. So we always ask our guests what their other zeros have been. For example, I always like chime in before the answer. Um, your baby is another zero, right? What maybe moving, maybe from acting to directing. What have been some of Kate's other zeros?
I moved to New York after I graduated from college. I think that was certainly um, a big another zero. Fresh out of college, 21 years old, moving to New York City, um, and all of the wonder of auditioning and working in a city like that, and all of the massive frustrations of living and working in a city like that. I've moved a couple times, so I moved from New York to San Francisco and kind of had to do the same thing, and then moved from San Francisco back to San Diego. And while I would hesitate to call moving back to San Diego a complete zero, because obviously I still knew people in the theater community here, it did feel like a big reset each time I moved. Um, and I would agree the baby is absolutely a resetting point, because I think it's making me really consider, if I'm going to be away from her, then I want to make sure that I'm away from her for work that I really care about, that means something, that is important to me, and that I think is important to put out into the world.
Well, very nice. And when can people start preparing? Well, they need to prepare now, really. Get your tickets.
We
Again, here on the
start April
website.
4th at
Okay.
Scripps Ranch Theater. I really do think it's going to be a beautiful piece of theater. And it's fast. It's a 90-minute little love letter. Um,
Oh my God, my favorite. No
yeah, it'll
intermission.
be, yep, no intermission, 90
All
minutes,
right.
fast paced, dive in, dream the dream with us, and then you get to emerge on the other side. Maybe bring your tissues, but I promise there are funny and exciting and lovely bits, as well as possibly some slightly weepy bits.
Oh, I love it. And before I let you go, are you one of those, yeah, directors? Because there's some directors that are just like there, every performance and like taking notes and just a different style of working. Is that, a wrap for you, like they would say in film, or you come towards the end, or that's it?
I'll definitely try to see it again before the end of the run. Generally, before the baby, I was at more performances usually than I missed. Not giving notes, because I think once a show's open, that really is the actors and the stage managers. Unless something egregious has happened, it's really not the director's job to butt back in, as far as I'm concerned. But but with the baby, I think hopefully I'll see it at least once before it closes again. But I'll be prioritizing some time at home with her again
Mhm.
once we kind of get this show up.
Love it. Love it. Kate, anything that you would like to add? We loved having you here today.
No, this was a pleasure. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for everything you do for theater in San Diego.
I try. More is coming, people. More is coming. Well, thank you so much again. And go see Mary's wedding. Anything else that's coming up with you soon that people can also prepare, look forward to?
Well, I guess I mean I can plug Loud Fridge, a
Mm-hmm.
theater company that I'm the director of operations for. We have a show opening the week after Mary's wedding, actually called Gruesome Playground Injuries, directed by Kaylin Sauer, that I think is going to be a lot of fun. Kaylin's blending her experience as a drag performer, as a former circus artist, as someone who has a keen interest in makeup and special effects makeup into this story about two people kind of trying to find each other and find themselves throughout the course of their lives. So also a two-hander, also arguably maybe a romance, and very tonally different from Mary's Wedding. So
Mhm.
maybe see them together and you get a nice balance of like very old fashioned and very modern all in one blast.
Always, always. It's the best way to appreciate it. Contrast and seeing what there's done, like what's being done here and then there, and then talking about it and bringing more people.
Yep, exactly.
So there we go. Again, thank you so much. And remember that here, everybody, we just don't start from zero. We start from another zero. So we'll see you on the next one.